Associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome back to the second hour of Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, Facebook, YouTube, and we are up at the end of the shows up on Spotify every single week. Welcome back to the first show of 2025.
Woohoo! Here we go.
So
one of my quotes, not helping myself. I always come up with little tiny tricks and tips, the thing of like the bumper sticker. I'm challenging everybody to just ask yourself, is that mine? Am I going to carry that? And we figure out oh, wow, we are actually carrying other people's stresses and other people's opinions and ideas. So I don't know, sometimes, I am a little bit a sassy mood.
My favorite thing about you is your sassiness.
I'm going through my thing, and I thought, I don't even know what was happening at the time. Maybe it was, somebody in traffic. But I wrote, "I'm so sorry I intimidate you to the point that you have to go feral." And that, to me, it just makes me laugh, and it makes me not take it personally like somebody else's. Just look at that. Look at them and how they're behaving. Look at their lips curled. Are they snarling? And they're just angry and aggressive. And I'm like, hey, wait, I don't have to take that on. That's not mine.
Yeah, that's not mine. I remember I was driving it was uphill, and it's a meandering road. And there was a person on a pedal bike going up a hill of probably a 20% grade. So he's going maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour. And I'm behind him in my big truck. And because there's traffic coming, I can't cross the double line to go around. And I just looked at my girlfriend at the time. I go, I am so glad he is getting in his exercise this morning. And I'm practically going backwards. I'm going so slow. And she laughed, and I was not happy he was getting his exercise that day that way, because it was so hard for him to push. He was jutting out to the left, and then he would pedal to the right and jut out to the right. So there was no really...
he's traversing.
He's traversing, yes, because he's going straight uphill, which I totally get. It just didn't want it to be in front of me. I wanted him to be like, oh, let me just pull over and let this car by, and then I can continue my thing instead of my world. Everyone else's world revolving around him.
Yes.
That's kind of my whole thing.
Oh, that's funny.
So tell me what your word for 2025 is.
Okay.
3 words.
Okay, legacy is one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have to go back and look it up.
Okay, you can.
Really quick. All right, so legacy is my first one. What's one of yours?
So it was going to be gamify, but I actually canceled that, and I'll tell you why. So my word, and it sounds odd at first, is resurrection.
Oh, I love it. All right, so tell me what you mean by resurrection.
Okay. Resurrection does have a religious connotation. In all kinds of religions and societies, it has a religious connotation.
So does the ER.
What is it?
The ER.
Yeah. In the ER, right. So, but this is a symbolic, as it is the rebirth of the spirit. And that's the way I'm using it. Like when the phoenix rises,
yes,
he arises new out of the ashes of what is old. And I said I have 3 words because I want to have faith in resurrection. That we can always make ourselves new and arise out of our ashes. And it sort of came to me because I'll tell you why gamify is not going to be my word. I'll tell you about that. But I want to hear about your stuff. But when I had said last year that we no longer look to the upcoming year with expectations of a better time, that age has wizened us to the realization that we never fully mitigate against disaster. There will always be sorrow alongside joy. There will always be lessons we learn and those that we need to repeat again. And there are always victories and losses. We get to experience them all, the ones of our choosing and the ones out of our control. So we share that we've learned that the change in year is not a sign that we will be a new person, leaving the old behind, because the past will come with us and stay with us as long as we're willing to carry it. Instead, we hope to learn the lessons and lose the misery within those lessons. We hope to create happy and joyful moments and create lasting memories. And we bond together in the struggle and the devastation. So nothing but strength and resilience arises out of the ashes. And
like
in that, a rise out of ashes. And it's really funny because death has been around. Death always comes around the holidays, it seems. You know someone who loses a friend, or someone who loses a sister, or someone who loses so-and-so, or you lose someone. I lost my mother at Thanksgiving. How many years ago was that? 12 or 14? 12, 13, 14? And so it makes me think we are devastated by death. Or I get devastated by death. It really, especially when there are people close to me and whatnot. But we rise up again. And I remember when the first death I experienced, I remember being so angry that life was going on. How could life go on? My father died.
Yeah.
How can life go on? This is unfair. But life always goes on. Aren't you glad that when so-and-so died in 12 BC that we're not all dead? Like, of course, we need life to go on, but it's such a hard pill to swallow that life goes on. And the pill that life will go on after we're gone.
Right.
Which kind of talks a little bit about your legacy,
legacy
component.
So what was funny is so we're listening to the Duncan Trussell, and I came up with, the boy peeing on the thing. Then I hear him say, and we use this phrase all the time, but it just hit me in a new way. Duncan and Joe were talking, and Duncan says, where attention goes, energy flows. And we've used that over and over and over again. And back to the bumper sticker, like you're putting attention to that. So your energy is being drawn to that. Is that necessary? It also was on there. It says, what we do in life echoes through eternity.
Ooh, perfect.
So back to legacy. And so Chris and I were talking. He's like, legacy, that's not where you're talking. That doesn't seem to be. And I'm like, no, that's my trigger word to trick me, not to trip me into. It's my activation word, because legacy, hearing the information, remembering that quote, what we do echoes through eternity. So it's making me aware of my actions, how I show up to my family, how I show up to the world, how I show up for myself. Am I choosing? So my other word phrase is pursuit of joy. If we are a constant pursuit of joy, it's almost like we're always evaluating. Does this bring me good? Is this something I want to pick up? And it's also reminding me how I'm showing up every day. So it's not
a Pollyanna attempt to pretend that everything is fine.
It's an awareness, but it's also to say, hey, here's your bumpers, because I already know what my standard is. I want to live in joy. I want to be joy. I want to reflect joy. I want to receive joy. I want abundance and all of those things. And so it makes me, that word, legacy, makes me think about what am I leaving behind? I think about, like, if I just shouted out somebody's name, immediately you draw a picture in your head. Or we think about, I say the word mom, or I say, your word dad. Automatically you have a feeling thinking about your own, or I think about your spouse or your ex-husband or your ex-girlfriend. You say their name and it automatically creates these feelings in you. And so that's what I'm aware of. Like, I want to be conscientious about the energy that I'm leaving behind, because I do think it's going to manifest. And I think that if I can pass along enough good actions and behaviors, they are going to ripple through. They're going to ripple through my children, through my grandchildren, through my spouse, through my friends, being able to be silly. Like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you and I, we get to go rollerblading and we've got people in the neighborhood that we're engaging in. And I'm like, yes, I'm 50 years old and my children get me rollerblades and light up wheels for Christmas. Like, I'm the only one that got toys.
Yes. I love it.
And my daughter's like, hey, I need some help. I need some cheetah print. So we're literally going through my closet and I'm pulling out stuff and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I had that and have that. Like, just being able to, like, whatever it is ridiculous that she's coming up with, I have an outfit for that. I have an article of clothing to help you go in that direction. And, you know, to me, that makes me smile, hoping that that makes her smile. Like, she's in college and she's in her 20s and she's borrowing stuff from her mom. Like, you know, when I was in that way, I'm like, no, my mom doesn't have anything cool.
Right.
Like,
right.
Any of those things. So those are like footprints that we're leaving behind.
So there's, I was listening to the book Sound Healing, which vibration, energy, and one of the things that I find really interesting is, and it probably is a meme at this point, but it says, if you don't believe in energy, but you believe in Wi-Fi, you don't understand energy, right?
Yes.
So they're constantly coming up with new ways to use sound to actually heal the human body. And that's a little bit what this book talks about. But in physics, there's this term called entanglement. And it was Albert Einstein that kind of said there's this, he like wanted to refuse to believe about entanglement. Because what entanglement said is the same thing. What we do echoes through eternity. Once something is part of something, no matter how far away it goes, it is still part of that thing. So I think it's photons, but for all you physicists,
I might have gotten it wrong.
I might not have photon right, but pretend it's photon for the sake of this argument so I can get out the conversation. So there's two photons, and when they're together, one spins, maybe it's electrons, I'm so sorry. It spins counterclockwise, so this one will spin clockwise, its counterpart. No matter how far away those move from each other, if one changes direction, the other one instantaneously changes directions. And what upset Einstein was the fact that there was this mystery to entanglement that couldn't be logically disguised away, right? Then you get into plants. You can separate my favorite book, Phenomena, by Annie Jacobson, one of my favorite books. It's when the government was trying to use phenomena and psychic ability and all of this other stuff to spy on the world. Not a great evil use for something beneficial, but the guy who made the lie detector test that measured energy, right? He was trying to figure out his test, and he took a houseplant and put the electrodes on the houseplant and tried to set that plant on fire, and the plant generated electrical activity, which was fascinating to him. So then he cut the plant in half, put half of it in another room. So this plant that he was setting on fire, that plant couldn't see it, but that plant responded to this plant. So that's entanglement.
Yes.
That we are interconnected through time and space. And it's such a lovely idea, but it's also a frightening idea because we can be entangled with evil.
Yes.
Too. We're trying to entangle in good and mystery and magic, but there is also the entanglement. You have a bad person come in your life could go to hell in a handbasket real quickly.
So what you were describing to me, it made me think about one of our first shows, and I was trying to, I think I used the example of like if we are sun, if we're this ball of light, and remember the old, it's not Etch-a-Sketch. Remember the guy that used to have all the little, you had the pencil and all the magnet, you could draw the magnets to build him a beard.
Yes.
And so you think about all the particles of energy. And if we are all born to be, just pretend, we're all born to be these radiant balls of light. And all those little dark pieces or black pieces of stuff just keep attaching to us. It dims our light. So all those particles are the stresses and the worries of the world. And it's, it's us attaching to things that are like our old traumas. It's kind of like hiding your light. And then I just thought about what if we could be like the magnets? That's energy. if that one gets too close, it will flip. It will flip and it will radiate outwards. The energy will radiate outwards. And like, what if we could harness our energy so that we're always reflecting the light and not allowing the things to attach to us? So we want to be that,
not be covered in darkness.
we want to be that polar end of the magnet that's projecting, radiating out, and not allowing things to attach to us and weighing us down.
Because we talk about, I joke that I can catch a bad mood like a cough.
Yes, me too.
Right? I'm a very sensitive creature. And that, you just have to have a bad mood around me for more than 15 minutes and I'm like all of a sudden now catching a bad mood. Recently, I had something that I had to, normally I would worry because that's my default mode, right?
Yes.
I'm going to worry about this thing that I can't control that's upcoming. It could be good, but there's the possibility that something bad could happen, right? So I said, I am just going to, this is great. This is nothing but beneficial and positive.
Yes.
And I maintained that through everyone else's worry.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, this could happen. Oh my goodness, I hope this doesn't happen. And I just kept, nope, this is fantastic. I am actually so excited for this.
Yes.
It was so not my default mode of dealing with a problem. Let me tell you, it exhausted me.
Well, and it's a big thing because you're
if you saw me in nothing but jeans,
very vulnerable. Yeah.
If you saw me in nothing but jeans for 3 weeks, it's because I couldn't put together an outfit because I was so positive through this time period. I got a sweater and jeans and sometimes a sweatshirt. I had nothing else to give.
And it's like our weakest moments are when the enemy are at the gate. When we when we are, when we're getting ready, we can do all this build up and still, but when reality starts, when it gets right at that point of action. And my mom said it to me and she kept drilling it to me. I didn't even know why. So I had sliced my finger and I was trying not to freak out. It's still bleeding. She's coming to pick me up because I'm at home alone and it needs stitches. And she's like, it's not time to worry. It's not time to worry. Everything I would say. And she's like, it's not time to worry. I will tell you when it's time to worry.
And thank God you said that to me because I had been positive for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had used resources I didn't even know I had for this positivity. And every time the little worm would try to get in of worry, I would just be like, no, this is great.
Yes.
Because the alternative was not great.
Yes.
I needed this to be great. And normally what I would do is worry. And then when it turned out that there was nothing to worry about, everything was good, then it would be like, what a waste of all that energy for worry for no reason.
Right.
And then in my head, because I knew I was dealing with other people's worry and I wanted to be, we didn't all need everyone.
Right.
We needed one voice that was positive about this experience to go through. But at the very, very tail end, I was waning.
Right.
I was like,
well, because you're vulnerable and it's like, it's the day. Now it's showtime.
It's showtime.
It's almost like put your money where your mouth is. And the truth of the matter is, it literally can go 50-50. Every decision can go one way or the other. And it's like, are you going to put the energy towards it? Are you going to put good energy towards it? Or are you going to put bad energy to it? Because you really do have a 50-50
and
shot.
I almost didn't want to manifest the bad energy. So one thing I tried all year long, my word in 2024 was present.
Yeah.
Right? If I was having bad thoughts, I would drop something. I would cut myself. I would make a mistake. If I was having that autopilot, that auto narration of the like bitch and complain, bitch and moan.
Yes.
In the background. If it was in my head and I was bitching and moaning, you could bet I was dropping something. The computer didn't work, and
just right.
There's the part of me that wants to say you don't control everything, and just because you were having a bad thought didn't mean it. But that would be my reminder to be present and be like, okay, let me just do the thing at hand, so I don't drop the hot tea on the ground or myself. So I don't do this. So I don't do that. Well, doing that long term. I was less clumsy. I was less this. I was less that, right? So when I came into this thing, I thought, I do not want to manifest through bad energy anything bad to happen. Mm-hmm. So let me, and this is one thing that I learned for sure in 2024. We can heal our own bodies. Mm-hmm. So I have, everyone who listens to the show has heard me talk about my heart, that I had AFib, that it hospitalized me, that I had a heart event that I lost 50% of the function of my heart. They said, we don't think it's permanent, but we really don't know what's happening. And in yoga, I had said to myself, like, why is my body failing me? And the response from my body was, why are you failing your body? And a doctor talked to me, if we don't find an explanation, you're going to have to make some serious lifestyle choices. And I stopped drinking. I stopped working so much. I changed 2 components of my business. I did a bunch of things that resulted in lifestyle change. And I have not had an AFib episode in months.
Isn't that awesome?
And I was having them every day. And they were literally, I was going to give myself I was giving myself a heart attack.
Yeah.
Cardiovascular. And it was stress related, amongst other things.
So
alcohol
again,
and
it's
stuff.
the same thing. We just said it. Attention goes where energy flows.
Yes.
And if you're putting energy into the worry and the bad, it's just we listened to a podcast and this woman was talking about energy, and her dad was out in California, and he'd been sick. He'd been sick for a long time, and some medical condition, and I don't know if it was cancer or it was something that he was struggling with. And every time she thought of her dad, it was always pity. It was always worry. It was always concerned. Then she had talked about sending energy and how powerful energy is and transference of energy, just like the plant. In our people, we are, I believe, like even though you're not blood, it doesn't have to be blood related. I think that when you're connected to people, they sense your energy. They can feel your energy.
How many times have you thought about someone or dreamt about someone, and then you pick up the phone and you call them and they say, I was just going to call you?
Oh my God, literally. So the other day I had asked Chris, hey, I had asked him if he had heard from one of the members of the Goon Squad. I'm like, hey, have you heard from so-and-so lately? Literally the next day, that guy reached out, gave us bad news that another guy, a friend of ours, had died. But I'm like, wow, literally within 12 hours.
It was an energetic thing.
And it had been 6 months or so or longer. We have not heard anything from this guy. And the next day, I mentioned his name. The next day, he's sending Chris a text message. But so anyway, she heard this podcast about energy, and she's like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to remember my dad at his healthiest, is his happiest, and I'm going to start thinking about my dad that way. So they had talked a couple of times. Literally within 30 days, the man is healed in his energies level. He's out exercising. He's changed his diet. He's already lost 15 pounds. He's on the road to healing. And I'm like, why not? Think about that.
Well, and to talk about that a little bit further, there are times where something will happen. Say someone has stage 4 cancer, and okay, we can't will this person or pray over this person for them to get better. But you can also still be in the moments, because when you're with someone when they're dying, I mean, even if you think of an elderly person, we're not going to live to 150, right? This person's almost 100.
Right.
They're passing. They're currently passing. You could be worried and upset and lose that vital time with someone here and on this plane. Or you could just be in this plane, as difficult as it is with the pain and the suffering and all of that, but you're still with them on this plane for as long as they are here on this plane.
Well, but so you'll have the rest of your life to mourn them. Don't mourn them right there while they're there. Right, they're there. Focus on the good energy. Focus on the love. Go over memories. When you can't change the outcome and you know that somebody's going to die, but all you can do is you can just flood, your mind, your heart with just sending peace, sending love, reminisce about old memories, the things that make them laugh. And, I send, so this week all of my energy has been manifesting good thoughts and energy to this one specific human being and saying no, so whether you're religious or not, I love the word prayer cover. Like I always will say, you are well protected. You have such a covering over you. I will say it to my kids.
You said it to me.
You are covered, because I feel like in my mind, I see a shroud. Like I see this protection, this wall. I do it to my kids every time when they are going out. And I'm like, nope, today is not the day. Not the day for that. I mean, New Year's Eve, kids are out, who knows else is on the road. You got one going into the city. You got one that's going to sleep out in the woods in the middle of nowhere in the winter. And, you never know what's going to go on. And I'm like, nope, not going to allow any fear to invade. Because what if I have that's a stretch to say that I would be responsible for it. But
Right.
if I have the power to change or send good energy, and what's funny is, I have an owl. An owl always shows up in just weird, odd times, places in my life. And, looking at your spiritual animal, what the white owl represents. And there have been times in my kid's life, and they don't know the story. They don't know the connection of, like, all of a sudden, my son's out in Utah and they're camping in the middle of nowhere and they get into a situation. The next thing you know, there's an owl right there. And my daughter's had similar stories. So whether that's all, people are like, that's woo-woo or that's silly or whatever. It's happened so many times that are consistency. Like, what if?
Well, even in
I
Albert
wanna believe
Einstein,
that.
even Albert Einstein and all the physicists and all the scientists, they talk about this a miracle happens because they can't make the leap from X to
Yeah.
Y. And there's a little Far Side calendar where they have all of this math up on a board and all the algorithms and the equation and everything. And then there's just miracle. And then there's the answer. Because and I think one thing that I'm trying to do more is I'm trying to believe in the magic. And that's why I'm saying faith and resurrection. Not just resurrection, but the faith and
Right.
resurrection.
But if you think about that, remember at Spencer's, they had that little ball.
Yes.
And they had the energy in it, and you touch it, and it all goes up to your fingers. And like we see things like that happen. We see science happening. And so, where do you think that makes that? Is it our heat? Is it our heat that makes it draw to that? But that's heat is energy.
Mm-hmm. And I think of this too. Just because you don't know, just because
It goes back to the Wi-Fi.
yes. If you don't have to understand gravity to know that it's working.
Right.
Right, you really don't have to understand gravity and be like, but I dropped this pen and it fell to the floor.
Right.
So, I mean, I can
Right.
believe in it.
Right.
I can believe in it. So believe in miracles. You don't know how they happen, and maybe they will show up more readily.
Yeah. So I think if you are in constant pursuit of joy, if you're constantly looking for, hey, joy is going to be on my radar, then you're constantly looking for the positive. So you're looking for it out into the world. And so what we see, where attention goes, energy flows. So we're not only are we going to be putting it out, we're also going to be receiving it in filtering the world through our process. Is this joy? Does this bring me peace? And joy doesn't mean have to be like, I think joy is because that's like it's deeper inside of you than just happiness.
So when I think of the healing of sound, music brings me joy.
Yes.
And especially certain songs bring me joy.
Yes.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra, that one song.
Milli Vanilli. I'm just kidding.
I actually do like Milli
Guns N'
Vanilli.
Roses.
Yeah, I do actually like Milli Vanilli. And Vanilla Ice. They are my that's my time. That's my time.
I like Vanilla Ice. Def Leppard.
So when I think about the healing and the sound, joy is a feeling.
But see, I think joy is, to me, I like joy over happy because joy is deeper to me. Joy, to me, I feel like joy has peace with it, a harmony. Happiness is like a euphoric feeling that's, I wouldn't say fleeting to me.
But it's like dopamine release.
Yes, but where I feel like is joy is
serotonin release.
You carry inside of you.
Yeah, so dopamine is the quick dump. It is the neurotransmitter that it's gambling.
Yes.
Right? It leads you, dopamine is the quick surge that will lead you to just the next step of the next thing. The reason why you,
How about that? So happiness is instant gratification. Joy is delayed gratification.
Yes. But serotonin is
you're constantly
released.
Building on it. Yes.
Yeah, when you do long-term things that bring you happiness.
Yes.
Serotonin is, and it's a well-being. It's the hormone neurotransmitter of well-being.
Yes.
Where dopamine, you can chase dopamine and actually get worse.
Yes.
With your dopamine.
So, like, does this bring me joy? asking me, does
Does this radio
yes,
show bring you
putting
joy?
that bumper sticker on that, does this bring me joy, or do I see it and I get triggered?
Mm.
Am I looking for, what brings me joy? What brings me happiness? Because I literally don't think that we were created to have a conscious brain to be miserable human beings. I literally don't. I think that you should.
It's almost mean. Why do I have this big brain if
we
she's
were
gonna be
watching
unhappy
a
all the time?
movie, and she said, I always want you to be my Peter Pan. I always want you to be my adventure. And like, I want to be, well, I don't really want to be Peter Pan. I'd rather be Tinkerbell, but I always want to be in
Well, Peter
constant
Pan
pursuit.
never grows up, right? So he's just an eternal child. I don't want to be a
Yes.
child. I want to be an adult. I hate
Yes.
authority. You know how much I hate authority people.
I want to be a child with adult money. That's what I want to be. And I actually think that we should all be that way.
Yeah, childlike.
Yes, childlike.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think one of the most beautiful things, and this is the way I see you, in my friendship with you, is I said to Chris, I mean, we're not married, but
Yet, no.
you're a part of me. But so it's my people, and so I don't think it just transcends I don't think it's good just for a marital relationship or a spousal relationship, that kind of I lost my train of thought. Oh, we were always told to find somebody to grow old with. No, I want to find somebody to be childlike with. And you are that for me.
Yes, you're that for me too.
And I think that, like, why it doesn't have to be just your spouse or just your partner, but, like, what about your community, your
I
group,
actually
your
think
people?
There's a reason why we didn't meet younger.
Been in jail?
Because I'm like,
Be
wow.
at San Quentin by now.
We needed our brains to be fully developed before we got into this. Because if we were 16,
Who
I
knows
just
how many
feel like
bad decisions good bad decisions we made.
That's
And
a bad
bad
decision.
decision ever I made.
and then some bad decisions. You know?
Yes.
So I do think, like, thank God our brain was fully developed when we met.
Yes.
But you know how the Inuit have 50 words for snow? There's falling snow, fallen snow, snow that was around since the beginning of the whatever. So Jewish people have the term family. There's like 3 different terms for family. There's your nuclear family, there's your extended family. Maybe there's more than 3 words. There's in-law family, and then there's the family of your choosing.
Yes. Family of choice. We use that for a lot.
Yeah.
Immediate family, too.
Yeah.
Next
And
of kin.
you are my family of choice.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, I consider you so integral. It's like you're my blood.
Yeah.
If I had to choose a family member, I would choose you.
Yes. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in the whole blood thing, and like we have these obligations to these people because they're blood. No, that's not true at all. It's the energy that you put into a relationship that makes you family.
Yeah, and some people are symbiotic and some people are not.
Yes, correct.
I think of so my mother and I are so different people. We had the same coloring, so people thought we looked alike, but actually I look more like my father, but I just have the coloring of my mother.
Yeah.
So because my coloring and my mother's were the same, they'd be like, "Oh, you guys look alike." And then when you looked at us, you were like, "Actually, you don't look alike." So she assumed, because she gave birth to me and that we had some similarities, that we were going to be so fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
And I think I was disappointing. I think motherhood and that relationship was
Yeah.
ultimately disappointing because
Yeah.
I couldn't have been any further
Yeah.
from fundamentally who she was as a person. And I think
Yeah.
that was jarring. And it's something that
Yeah.
people didn't talk about back then.
Well, the thing is, it's
Like,
like you think about mother-daughter relationships, father. It does. You think about different
The
relationships.
closest
like that.
relationships could be the most strife. There could be the most strife in them.
Yes. Well, I think the closest relationship, and I think family does it the most to each other, that we have this expectation of like, well, I'm your mother, you should call me. Or I'm your mother, you should do this. Or I'm your father, you should do this. You should do that. I remember growing up, my dad was like, and I didn't understand it. And I do see now as an adult how it could come across as being a smart ass. But he's like, you will respect me. And I'm like, but you're not respecting me. And, and he was like, that's disrespectful and all of that stuff. But the truth of the matter is, I knew early on, I just didn't have the words for it, is like, that is a two-way street. respect is earned. And obviously, yes, I had to look up to but I didn't mean it from a place of malice. It was like, wait a minute. You can't treat somebody like crap. Not to say my dad did, but you can't treat somebody poorly and demand something of someone that you're not willing to do for yourself. Don't demand that I call you and I put into the relationship if you're not willing to do it yourself.
Right.
That's not alignment at all. That's saying I'm putting my expectation on you. I didn't get invited to the Christmas party. Well, why don't you invite me? Why don't you have a party?
I think I just invited myself to your bowling league.
Yes.
Most people
totally
would
fine.
be like, I really wanted to do that, but I'm not going to do it, and they didn't invite me, so I'm not going to do it.
Right.
If you didn't want me to go, if you're like, hey, this is a date thing and we don't want you there, you would tell me.
Well,
and my feeling wouldn't be hurt.
Well, the truth of the matter is I didn't even get invited. I got told we're doing family bowling night.
I love it.
I have no rule. I have no idea what the rules are. We have to meet there at like 6:15 for a meeting. And I'm like, what is this, man? Are there any other girls on the team? Like, how many to a team? Are we all going to be on the same team? Like, so I have so many questions, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stress myself out. I've already said, yeah, I'll do it. I don't know if didn't have a choice, but it goes back to like a family of choice. And like the only reason why we feel regret or remorse or something about our family of blood, our family of origin, is because there's an expectation. And I'm like, who put that expectation in there? Like as a mother or as a daughter or as a father or a son or a sibling or a spouse, like who put that expectation on there that, well, so my grandparents never used to visit us because they always thought, my parents even said, well, that's just what you do. The kids leave home and they come home for the holidays. Who said that? Mm-hmm. Who made that up?
Maybe I'm in a better location and you need to visit me.
Or like the kids always come to the parents' house. Who said that?
Mm-hmm.
And it created this expectation. And like, no, I don't. What about my house, my life? I'm setting up my. And so we have all these things, and like, I'm not going to attach to that. I'm sorry if you do, but I'm not going to carry guilt and remorse over it. I'm happy to have a relationship with you, but it's not going to be all one-sided. I'm not going to be the one that's always calling, remembering, sending the cards, scheduling vacation time to do all this stuff. If you're not going to match my energy, why would I do that? That's so much work for me. It needs to be balanced or harmonized.
Yes. And I do think that those relationships are the toughest because kind of like what I said about my mom, where she gave birth and she thought, okay, how many chromosomes are mine? 50% of these.
Right.
We should be 50% aligned about stuff, right?
Right.
Just by genetics.
Right.
I'm supposed to genetically. But how interesting that it's not.
Right.
Right? That we did have the same sense of humor.
Yeah.
We did. And I think she found some relief in that.
But it's funny how, you have the same...
I found relief in it. I found relief in it because how different we could be, there could be something we could laugh at that would be the connection back together.
Yeah.
And I think where our relationship went sideways was there was less and less laughing together.
Yeah.
But I do think, like when I think back to the way we handled the tanning bed, right? She was willing to ignore the long-term risks for short-term rewards. But I was always the one who was very concerned about long-term. Long-term. And it was just that is like a type of difference that we had fundamentally.
Yeah.
She was like, what's right now? And I'm like, but if it was only just right now, what does our future hold?
Right.
I was worried for the future.
See, that's how I think. I always think, well, what's next? I play...
But I'm a terrible chess player. I can't think 5 steps ahead, but I need 2 or 3 steps ahead.
But in certain things like that, like I always was thinking about when my kids would come to me with something that they were stressing about or worried about. And I'm like, well, just think it through. What's the worst case scenario? In this situation, what is the worst thing that you can think of to happen? And literally, if you can get them to say it out loud, it's like, oh, it's actually not that bad.
It loses the power.
It does. It takes that fear away. I'm like, okay, that's not that bad. It's uncomfortable, but it's not that bad.
So there's Michael Esther wrote a book, The Comfort Crisis, and it talked about how we are so comfortable as a society. So we have AC, we have heat in our house, we have roofs overhead, like
Ice.
we cold drinks. We have so much comfort,
Salad included in your meal.
that it's actually becoming detrimental to us as a species. And so he says you're supposed to choose one thing every year. It's called a masogi, which is a Japanese word, which means there's a 50% chance that you're going to fail at this thing. That you're not, and it's not something like a marathon where you can train for it. It has to be something that you might do it, you might not do it. But that's the challenge of it, because you're doing something hard enough that it challenges you. And in the challenge, that's where the growth happens. You do something uncomfortable so that you could grow who you are. And so and a lot of times it was a physical thing. And I do find that physical and mental just are so, in my personal life, are so tied together.
Yes.
So I joke that I have to work out every day, because if I take one day off, I take 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
That's sort of my life. That's sort of my mental state too. There's almost a part of me that works a little every day, because if I take one day off, I'm going to want 2 weeks off.
Well, I think
I'm
the
gonna
more
want a
that
break.
we try to grow, and elevate ourselves, change our habits, our old self shows up. Because we're fighting our own demons. We're fighting our old self. We're trying to change a different perspective. One of the notes that I had taken, I wrote growth, and it said it's not about being an imposter. Like sometimes people from our past are judging us from who we are in the past, or don't see us from that new lens. It's not about being an imposter. It's not about we meet certain people in our lives that bring out different aspects of ourselves.
Well, like they play on a certain personality type.
Yes.
Within us.
Yes, it brings
a part
out,
of us.
Yeah, it brings out a certain strengths or weaknesses in us. And because I think that we're very complex human beings, individual species.
Yes, we are very complicated.
Yes.
And I think I'm really interested in the complicated. I'm interested in the duality. Someone who, just take the line of something that I disagree with.
Right.
And they're going to toe that line so dogmatically, I actually have no interest for them.
Yeah.
Because, this ball is red. We have this little red ornament here. This ball is red. And if someone's going to say, yeah, but it's not really red.
It's crimson.
It's crimson. And you're like, okay. But if
Maybe
they're
it's
going to say that's green.
Right.
Because it identifies as green.
Yeah.
And someone would say, okay, but it's not. It's red. And you go, no, it's green. Because on the black and white scale, red and green are the same exact tone of gray, which is technically true, right? In black and white photography, red and green are the same exact color.
Yeah, that is true.
They're the same exact gray scale.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that identifies in black and white, that identifies as green.
Yes.
And you're going to just continue to have that conversation that it's green. I have no interest for you. Because now you're just arguing for arguing's sake.
Yes.
And arguing, actually talked about this with John. When people argue in that banter, like they always take the devil's advocate, they always take the opposite just to have that diametrically opposed.
Yes.
That exhausts me.
Well, but that's an unsettled inside of that person. If you once you realize, like you say it, and I will probably say it until the day that I die. The way that people show up and respond is energy that's inside of them. If they've always got to be controversial, or they always, I think it's Joe Dispenza and or Jordan Peterson. They talk about how we literally become addicted to the drama.
Yes.
Because when you're in drama, you have your endorphins are elevated.
You have a chemical concoction that responds within your body.
Yes, and then once that drama goes down, like your body starts craving it again. So I avoid people like that. I avoid people like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. But you said something about duality, and I wanted to hit on it. The other day, Chris and I are over at the office, and we're playing on the golf simulator. I'm very visual, and I'm a very tactile person. So I like when we're playing, I hate the simulator. I cannot hit it off of the fake grass. Even if we go to a driving range, I will find the grass part of it. something about the feel, the texture of it, and me swiping the blade on that fake grass. I don't know why. I know it's a mental block. But Chris was getting frustrated because I was getting frustrated. Now, we're playing a golf course. I don't know where. I feel like I'm swinging a perfect swing. It makes great connection. And the next thing you know, it didn't read, or it didn't do this, or it went way left, or it only went, it only went 5 yards. And next thing you know, we're 5 holes in and I'm plus 20. I've never been a plus 20. And so I'm a number person, and I'm like, I see this thing and
Your metrics.
and I'm so frustrated because I'm like, I don't feel like I'm swinging that. I'm like, I think I play pretty decent golf. I wouldn't say, I am still waiting for the LPGA to pick me up, but
She's not joking.
for real, I am going to put this summer I was playing some pretty decent golf. Like everybody that partnered up with us, it's all guys. They're all bigger dudes. They're all can drive it, 120 yards past them. But yet I'm beating them in our game. So I feel like I know I don't suck that bad. So he's like, let's just stop playing. He's like, let's go to the range. So we're at the simulator. I'm on the range, and I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for like 2 hours now. My hands are tired. Keep hitting it. He's getting frustrated. He's like, let's just stop. I thought you weren't going to have fun. This is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be doing together. And he's talking about.
How does he understand that golf is never fun?
I know.
There's always the element.
He's like, I thought we'd come over here and laugh like on the golf course. But the thing is, when he tells me it's a 30-foot putt and the screen is like 10 feet in front of me, or like 5 feet in front of me, I have no depth perception. And so when I'm golfing and like, dude, I got 2 eagles, a par, 2 pars, and a birdie all in the same 9 holes. Like my short game was on fire. Now all of a sudden you're telling me, because I can visualize seeing how far away to the pin it is. You take that away, and I feel like at the simulator I'm handicapped. And he said, but everybody else comes over here and has a great time and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I am having a good time. But can't you understand I'm frustrated too? And all he could see was, he's like, all your bad energy is just filling this room, and let's be done. I'm like, but I didn't say quit. Like, you're ending it for me. I'm like, can't you understand that duality exists inside of me right now? I am having a good time spending time with you. I'm a little bit frustrated because I've never shot 20 over.
Right.
And it's 5 holes. And I know my swing out in the world, and now it's not lining up for here. So I am frustrated, but I'm still having a good time too. It makes me feel defeated, but I'm still enjoying the time. And I'm like, can't you understand that duality? And he's like, God. It got him stumped too, because it's like, it really does. But the thing is, he was paying attention to my frustration in my feeling deflated.
And it almost seemed like he picked up your frustration.
He did. And now we're starting to bicker, and I'm like, but Chris, my focus is on me being with you, trying to get it right, trying to be patient. So I say, don't you understand that duality can exist at the same time? In that I can be frustrated. But I can also be grateful for the opportunity and not allowing the frustration to. It was like I'm keeping it at bay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how many times through our life do we struggle with that duality of those emotions?
Right. And how many times does that happen in coupledom or in relationships with parents and kids, where someone is struggling, and instead of giving them space to work through their struggle, we pick it up and try to change it?
Yes.
That's a parent thing. Right. 100%.
Well, because it's that energy.
And it's also receiving that
energy, and it's making them feel uncomfortable. But that's one of the things I was like, the bumper sticker. That's not mine.
Yeah.
If we can empower and teach people, and like Chris, give him that tool to say, it's not mine. That's her battle. All I can do is be her friend, be here, and not attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And just changing that energy instead of like, you're wigging me out.
Right.
I'm wigging myself out.
I do think so. We love to do IDPA shooting and go to shooting clays. We love shooting. It's a skill, and it's a diminishing skill. So the minute you haven't done it in a while, when you go to pick back up, you're like, have I never shot before?
Right.
Now, John I learned to shoot a gun before John came into my life. It was something that I had an interest in and I wanted to do. And then he's a very athletic person. He does things extremely well. And then he was practicing there was about 3 years he was practicing more than me. Right? So he got better than me.
Yeah.
And then when I showed up to the thing, I all of a sudden became a reflection of him. So when I didn't do bad, he took it as a personal affront. Instead of being like, hey, I've been doing this 3 years more than her. I've probably been out 20 times more in the last 3 years than she's been out. Let her find her way.
Yeah.
It was, and I think parents do this, I think spouses do this, whatever you're doing at this moment is a reflection on me. It's a mirror back to me. And now I feel uncomfortable with you shooting so bad today. I feel so bad.
Yeah.
I'm feeling bad that you're golfing bad today.
Yeah.
This isn't a good reflection.
Well, so he said, can I give you some advice? And he comes behind me and he's like, I think that you need to tweak your thing. And I'm like, no, I actually am feeling pretty good about my swing. It's my mindset it's that box in front of me.
Yep.
Usually when I have something and it's literally like not even a foot away from the
Have
driver.
you played the music game, the Guitar Hero?
No.
Okay, so Guitar Hero I played with my cousins and they're little, right? And they are on the score killing it, but the music they're playing is terrible.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of why I stopped choosing Gamify. You can choose the wrong things to get points that not really serve in real life.
Right.
So if you remember that this golf game is Guitar Hero, just because you can play a video game.
Right.
And we talked about this with someone who played drums in real life and they were doing terrible in the game because they were like, well, that's not how it works in real life.
Right.
And you're like, I know, this is a video game. We're playing a video game. It's a simulation. It is not the real thing.
I'm not saying I want to change. And when I was saying to him, I don't like the box that's sitting right in front of my driver. I don't like it sitting that close. It makes me feel
crowded.
like I'm going to hit it. Yeah, it makes me feel crowded. So now I'm self-conscious of it. I don't like hitting it off of the tee because I like feeling the grass. I like feeling whether I'm going to take a divot, and it's all just hard in your hand. And I don't know where to line up. I don't know what I'm looking for because they set the screen and like they set where my slope is. So I'm actually not even looking out. So I said, I feel like I'm operating with none of my skills. My skills is to be able to see and get the feel of how far away it is and hit to that. Now I'm saying, like, you guys have already lined up my ball based upon where my shot's going to go. And now I don't even know what to line up on. Am I supposed to be the 3 dots on top of the box, or am I supposed to line up there? It's so confusing and overwhelming for me. Like, it takes away all of the things that I use in real life. So I was like, I don't want you to change my golf swing. I don't think I need to tweak my golf swing.
Because now when I get out in the real world, I don't need my golf swing tweaked.
Right.
and
right.
To the shooting thing, take video of me. Because what I think is happening, when I look from the outside, I know it's not happening. Maybe video your golf swing. Maybe see if that's helping.
So be aware.
Yeah, be aware. But we had another fantastic Thursday with you guys. We
and
hope
we
you
ran
had
out of
fun.
time again.
We ran out of time before we got into the whole conversation. Don't we love that about us? We hope you have a wonderful week coming up at the beginning of January. You are listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, Facebook,